Hi, my name is Michelle, and I am creating this video today to spread awareness about circumcision and my own experiences with it. I am the daughter of a doctor who circumcises infants. She's an OBGYN, and I've been wanting to make this video for a while and thinking about what I'm going to say. I'm just going to dive in with my story. My mom took me with her one day to watch a circumcision. She did that because she really wanted me to be a doctor, and she thought it would be fun to take me with her to work one day to see what she does. I know, I guess in her mind, she couldn't take me to see anything else. She couldn't take me to a birth because that could make the patient uncomfortable. But this to her is a very minor, quick procedure, which it is quick, but she just thought it would be fun for me to come along. I was not the type of child who would get in the way or interfere. I was very well behaved. So she decided she would take me with her this day, and I remember knowing kind of what it was and definitely feeling uncomfortable about it, because just the mere concept would make anyone cringe. But I wanted to think highly of my mom, so I had very high hopes for this procedure. And I had hoped that it would be like the removal of a wart, watching the doctor remove that, or like watching a dentist maybe fill a cavity. And I also hoped that the intact penis would look really bad. I wanted it to look like it had extra skin, as my mother called it. I wanted it to look just unsightly, and the nurse brought the baby in and he was sound asleep. He was so sleepy, so asleep, that when they unbundled him and took off his diaper, took off everything, and laid him down on the table, which I learned later is called the circumstraint, he slept through the whole thing. And my mom tied his arms and legs down, and he slept through all of that. And I remember, even though he was asleep and he wasn't in any sort of distress from it, I remember thinking how horrible that looked. To see a baby boy tied down like that just looked terrible. And my mom covered him with some paper sheets, and she covered every part of him except his face and his little penis. And I remember being pretty amazed at how it didn't look bad at all. It looked totally normal. It didn't look like what I had known to be normal, but it looked totally healthy. It didn't look like anything was extra that needed to be removed. It didn't look like it needed to be altered in any way. So my mom the whole time was very cheerful and talking to me the way a teacher would talk to a student. She was saying, "Oh, now we're going to do this, and now I'm going to do this." And I was just watching. And then um, um, she used some instrument, and she was talking to me and telling me she's just going to insert this underneath the foreskin to protect the penis so that she doesn't accidentally injure the penis. And when she inserted that under the foreskin, that's when the baby screamed like all I remember is how incredibly horrified I was, how I felt, and how he looked, and how he he was screaming like he couldn't have possibly screamed any worse. I mean, she could have been murdering him. She could have been cutting off his arms and legs and killing him and doing anything to him, and he couldn't have possibly screamed worse than that. So he I was watching him screaming and watching how terrible it looked, that he was literally tied down, and his penis was sticking straight up, and my mom was hunched over him doing what she was doing while he was just screaming in agony. And I felt just so many feelings at once. I felt like just how awful it looked, that he couldn't defend himself, that he couldn't push her away, he couldn't even writhe, he couldn't even like move around in pain. He was just strapped down. All he could do was scream. And I remember being so shocked because as I said before, I thought the first cry would be of him getting a shot. And so I was just appalled that, as far as I could tell, he was feeling every bit of this, and his little penis was just completely exposed and sticking out for her to do what she was doing, and that there was nothing he could do. So then, my mom seemed completely unfazed by this at all. And then the baby just stopped. He just completely, instantly stopped screaming. His eyes were already shut, but his mouth was wide open, and his face was all red, and he instantly stopped crying and just kind of closed his mouth more and didn't make a sound. Then my mom just continued as she was, and she said, he's just sleeping. And I was like, oh my God, I know he's not sleeping, because he was sleeping before she started. He was woken up out of his sleep to those screams, and now it was like he could have been dead. I mean, I knew he wasn't dead, but he was just completely non-responsive. And so then she used the knife and cut around the device and cut the foreskin off, and he wasn't even moving. And I remember wondering if he could feel any of that at that point, because it was like he wasn't even there. And then when she finished, his penis looked like any other circumcised penis that I had seen. And it was done successfully. There wasn't any extra bleeding or any problems as far as I could tell beyond what had been done to him. But obviously you can tell I was very disturbed by this. And the nurse was the one who bundled him up again, put his diaper on him, and she seemed very upset. She seemed like she couldn't stand what she had just watched. And I remember so well how she held him close to her and was shaking him, and she was saying these words, poor little man, over and over again. And I was looking at her and looking at my mom. I don't think I really looked at my mom much. I was very bothered by what I had just seen, but I was thinking back and forth, the nurse, my mom, the nurse, my mom, because the nurse's reaction seemed like what you would expect it to be. And my mom was just happy and cheerful and like, oh, what do you want to, maybe we should go to the store, or, we're just going to head on out. And like, it was no big deal at all. And I didn't want to think badly of my mom because she was my mom. Um, and so I thought in my head, well, is the nurse being overly dramatic here? But clearly she wasn't. Even now, my stance on it now, I don't think nurses should be doing this. I think if they know it's wrong, they need to take a stand and they need to say, I'm not going to participate. But to me, I remember being kind of just bombarded with this thought, something is wrong with my mom. Something's terribly wrong with my mom. She doesn't know right from wrong. She doesn't know what other people's feelings are. She's supposed to be helping people. She's a doctor, and look what she just did. I have described this incident to several people, and I say, this was torture. I watched her torture a baby.